It's really complicated. Like I say, I have forgotten a lot about a lot of what happened. It's kind of complicated in how, I mean, things happen, like my choices affected the world around me a lot. Um, like I say, things like there being a sex trade and people trading money. My financial system equals a sex trade, which is really originally there was a road being built, and the road was being built through another country, um, and then when the people were done with the road, they didn't know what else to do other than farm, so they just kind of hung around, and they just kind of started having sex and reproducing, and there was a massive population increase, and then they started selling themselves, and then a bunch of women got together and started having sex for money and supporting themselves, which I was kind of surprised about. Anyway, and it was really more women than men. Um, and and then and then some men abusing the women, and usually the women actually took care of themselves or got some guy to do it. So I didn't really have to do much really. But there were other times like Harlem or whatever where like I was like, all right, go in there, find these people, get these people, and somebody said, so we're about to do a military assault on Harlem, and I said, yeah, if that's what that takes. Because apparently somebody was in there, some guy I think had guns and money and troops. He's like, blah 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 blah. He owned the place, and I was like, well, not exactly. So there was once a military assault on Harlem using tanks and military infantry because I have guns too. So, or at least my people had guns too. So, and it goes back to the religious days, where, and that's how you get religion and the fighting people. Because at first I was just passive. I was trying to be neutral. I was trying to just be healing, and then it just came that day when I was like, no, you're not going to abuse these people. You're not going to kill those people. They are people, not just your toys or playthings or whatever. And just because they're technically your children does not mean you get to do whatever you want. So that was where Lucifer or me actually started coming up against people, or certain people. They had guns. I was just a person, blah, 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 blah. And, well, truth is, I'm an inventor too. So I invented tanks, or at least a shell. Like I said, the Titanic was basically my invention. Lots of boats were my invention. The aircraft was my invention. And so I invented a tank, an engine, steam power, a power plant, a shell, and some tracks, or some version of, basically. Um, Mostly so my people could negotiate, because some of these people, if you even got near them, they would shoot at you, and that means dead negotiator. So tanks actually started out as basically like communication boxes, and there's even some pictures where one country will have one steel box come forward, another country will have another box, and then sometimes they'll even shoot across once they get there, because it's like, you're supposed to be negotiating, not shooting at each other. So things kind of progress over the years, and that's kind of like something. France and some other country, anybody got near them, they would just shoot at them, and so a steel box was built, and it drove out, and another steel box was built, and it drove out, and they used to communicate and discuss things and work out things or something like that. I don't really know. It's one of those things. So, I mean, it's a really old thing. It's really different when you're actually the creator to humanity and the real Lucifer and me, because a lot of things happen, and, it's like, it's my problem. So, because when people ask, well, we want to talk to a higher power, it's like, well, unless that higher power is the gun in your hand, if you really want to talk to the creator or me or a massive inventor and basically the person, the real Lucifer, then, well, and some of them were like, we don't want to deal with it, or we can't deal with it. And past a certain point, it was like I was so powerful that it was just like, yeah, I can afford to have a steel box built, and it can go out into a field to talk to somebody else, and they can discuss things. It was also used with the Indians as well. Some of the Indians wouldn't communicate with some of my British people without shooting arrows at them. So a steel box drove out into a field, and Indians eventually came by and talked to the people inside. Or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. It's time and space and choices that I made to end conflict. So, and I don't really know. Like, it was like one of those things where it just happens and I make a decision and it's done. It's over with. It's like when you decide to go have a job. You know, you decide to go have a job. I decided a way to end a conflict. A few of them. So, anyway, time, space, reality, future, causality, all kinds of stuff. And my solution to sex trade / people with guns that won't let my people get near them, to talk to them. So, tanks. Like I said, I had steel, I had steam, and I had metal forges. What else am I going to do? And I was playing around with cannon anyway. And then I had this problem. So, solution. Anyway, yeah. And lots of tanks were built and stuff like that, and they were actually even kept at towns for a while there because raiding parties would come in and they could kill or break into anyone, and then it became kind of like a starvation game where it's like, you know, or whatever. You know, the rules change, things change, it's really complicated, and it was me trying to have law and order and everything and get people to stop fighting, so they had to talk. So they did, and, you know, technology continues, and things happen. Anyway, on the lighter note, though, all my production things were always saved. Like I always said, save 1 or save 2 for me, or save 4 for me, for later on, for a museum, for the future, so I could see it. So I could see what I had invented or what had been built at one of my factories. So that's why you had some World War II tanks just hanging around that were in perfectly good condition. Because, or in pretty good condition. Later on, they were used for target practice, some of them, and because they were just so old and so antiquated that, I mean, I should have saved more. I really should have told them to save more, but I was like, yeah, use some of them for target practice, I guess. And some of the people were like, no, we're not going to use that for target practice. That was part of our history. So it's like, well, if you really feel sentimental about it, I guess, but I mean, not like I hadn't invented 500 other things afterwards. Like, I kept on inventing I invented thousands of things. Thousands of different ideas, leading humanity and civilization for a very long time. I don't know, some people, like I say, some people, they go to work and they serve coffee. I invented the future and led nations, led all of humanity in this life and before. I mean, like I always say, being the creator of humanity kind of means, if you are actually the creator to humanity, that means humanity will eventually find you, and then they will talk to you and ask you if they care about the creator. So, if not, then, but I mean, most people are like, well, is he really the creator? It's like, yep. So, some people say I'm lucky. I'm not really lucky. It was a nightmare. It was a literal friggin' nightmare. But yeah, and I was just a great inventor, so. Anyway, my people, I won. My people won. I was a better inventor than most. So, and better person than most. So, like I say, with sex trades and drugs and stuff, I was just about the only thing that people could ask for help. And when they did, I made decisions. And my money was spent, my factories were tasked. Groups were assembled, and things went to it. I was more than just a king. And at some point in time, some other person, some other king was like, your way or my way. And I was like, well, and then the people, I don't know, you know, just the way it worked out. I mean, like I said, they tried to lobotomize me and kill me and stuff. Because I was their opposition, apparently, or something. Later on, they're like, yeah, whatever. Don't worry about it. Like, yeah, I know. You know, people get confused. It happens. So, anyway, yeah. It's complicated, but anyway, different.